Chiefs are ready to take on maybe their most hated rival. I don't know. It might be getting up there, but they got to be stronger and they got to be wary of the threat that's today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back in, everybody. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd. It's coming up quick. You got 12 days. All FanDuel customers can just bet a $5 bet and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. It's over at FanDuel.com. Go there to get started. We're going to get started with Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, giving us the inside scoop on the Kansas City Chiefs and how we're going to get there. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com, where you can have my Sunday takeaways that are up there right now, and RGR Football, where we break it down from a whole nother level. We are going to get you the major stuff here. What are the X factors going into week number 2? That's coming up later in the show after we get to the Bengals as a threat matrix kind of aspect of a caged animal here. We're going to get to them coming up next, but we start with let's look at ourselves in the mirror. Can we get stronger? How can we improve from last week? Matt, they're about to get a bounce back player. Hollywood Brown should be at least around practice. We'll see if he actually participates, but I theorized when they didn't put him on IR that maybe it could be 2 or 3 weeks. If he's back for game 2, that's a huge boost that I didn't quite expect. Where do you land on him?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs all along have been saying that he's been on the Tyreek Hill track. And remember, Tyreek, when he had the very similar exact injury back in 2019, he came back and played his next game after the injury 35 days later. Last Thursday for Hollywood was 26 days. So that was never really part of the game plan. But week 2, when they face the Bengals, it's going to be 36 days. So that's almost exactly the Tyreek Hill return timeline. So they're going to test him this week. They're going to get him out in the field, see how he's doing. So far at this point, he's passed all the checkpoints that they have had. So now is the next chance is to get him on the field. Thursday will be a big test because that's going to be the main practice. We'll see if he gets out there, gets something done. Certainly if you look at what the Chiefs were accomplished in week 1 offensively, they don't need to rush Hollywood back. So I'm not expecting them to rush him back. If they feel like he needs another week, they can afford to give him another week. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's a distinct possibility he's back this week. And if not, certainly in week 3, I think, unless there's a setback, that's when you'll see Hollywood. One of the next 2 games for sure.
Well, that impact, whenever it does happen, I think lifts not only the other receivers around him, with Rashee Rice doing the yeoman's work and getting things done week 1, Xavier Worthy providing that overly dramatic speed punch. I don't think they have to have him. But what does Hollywood do for those 2 guys if he does return?
Yeah, it gives you a receiver at another level. I mean, that's what, this offense, when we saw it in preseason and training camp in particular, when it was cooking the most, it's when it had those 3 guys in the field with Travis Kelce, because now you got 4 guys who can work different parts of the field. But more specifically at that receiver level, now you got somebody who can attack short, intermediary, and deep. And some of those guys can attack multiple positions at the same time. But, there's no doubt. I mean, when you've got an Xavier Worthy that can extend the field downfield and loosen things up for the guys that are underneath, you saw it last week alone with just like the slants, the intermediate slants, the Rashee Rice. It opens up a huge part of the field. Well, there's going to be part of the field open for Hollywood too. So, that's an area that the Chiefs just really didn't attack. They attacked a little bit with Juju, but, it wasn't an area of the field that, they had a fresh, healthy-ish, we'll call Hollywood when he gets back. But they didn't have an elite talent receiver at that position. So, when they've got what looks like to be elite level talent at 4 different spots on the offense, it just opens up things even wider. But to me, that's the one thing is that Hollywood definitely brings is that 3-dimensional attack, because now it's not just, at 2 different levels that they can attack. It's all 3 parts of the field.
Now, I know there's other parts of the ballgame besides the offense, folks. So, Matt, if you're looking to take a step from what we saw against the Ravens towards the Bengals, who I actually think may not be as formidable a foe as the Ravens were week 1, where's another area that you feel that they can and will get stronger?
Well, on the offensive side, I mean, I think that the offensive line performance is something that just should improve throughout the season. If for no other reason than Kingsley's a big part of that. Getting the not rust knocked off of Joe Tooney, I think, is a big part of that. And everybody else just getting comfortable. I mean, I thought that the right 2/3 of the line from Creed over to Juwan played pretty well. Not a lot of penalties in that group, but I thought they were pretty solid. But, there's room for improvement with Kingsley and Tooney, especially from just a chemistry standpoint, from just picking up things. They can get stronger. I mean, the ground game wasn't a huge success against the Ravens. It was effective at times, but they just need to be more consistent. They need to be more productive. And part of that is just going to come with time. I mean, I think that, this time of year, I think it just takes a little bit to start to build up that. And especially when you got a guy who's new to the offense and one guy that, hasn't really taken part in any of the offseason workouts and was a late returner to camp. I think that's just to be expected. So I know the Chiefs would like to get more production out of the ground game. Like I said, it was effective when it needed to be against the Ravens, but they would like for that to be, that whether it's Pacheco, Steele, or P. Ryan that's in the backfield, that, they're getting closer to 4 or 5 yards a clip, not 2 or 3 yards a clip.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I want to see that myself, and it's about giving them enough volume to get to that point for both the linemen and for the backs. I like that. Now, against the Bengals, it's going to be, I think, a different way to sled. Maybe we won't see as much power. Maybe we'll go back to a little bit more inside-outside zone. We'll see what they choose to do. But attacking that one is also grabbing a tiger by the tail, quite figuratively, but definitely literally as well. How do they do that? Coming up next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now they have a chance for you to do exactly what I do every single week. They have something a little bit different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube base plan account, all you got to do is watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. No problem. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make sure you check out the brand new, remodeled Locked On NFL show with my guy Tyler, my former partner on Locked On NFL, if you guys remember those days for me. He's doing the morning show, and you get Tony Wiggins at night breaking it all down twice a day, twice as much, for free, just as often here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt, looking at the Bengals, this is a team that has high expectations, obviously has a pretty highbrow Burrow quarterback, one that may not be 100%, by the way, and has weapons that should be paying off, yet laid an egg week 1. That has an effect on your psyche, in my opinion. Saw one key player in Higgins that didn't play. We'll see whether he's able to go against the Chiefs, but where do you feel like this team is in terms of its threat to the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, I mean, to me, there's a lot of things going on with the Bengals. And obviously one of them is that, there's a trend now that we've seen that's become a larger story this week. The Bengals are just not very good in the beginning of the season. And Burrow hasn't always been very good. I don't believe he's ever won a week 2 game. So there's a challenge thrown down for the Bengals. I mean, they're hearing about this week about just how bad that they are at this time of the year and how bad they are in week 2. So, that's probably the biggest motivating factor that the Bengals have going for them. Problem is they've got some physical factors that are just working against them. One, you mentioned it, not having T. Higgins, and even if he is back this week, probably not 100% is an issue. The fact that Jamar Chase has not been practicing and didn't look to be a completely full part of the offense in week 1 is a problem. The fact that Joe Burrow does not look healthy. That hand does not look like he's comfortable whatsoever throwing the football at all. And when you think about that injury and that surgery, I mean, he's only been throwing the football for a couple of months at best. And, we know ligament surgeries can be something that it's beyond just the time that it takes to get back onto the field. And especially for a quarterback in their throwing hand, there's nothing about that sounds good. And the ball did not look like it was comfortable coming out of Burrow's hand in week 1. So you got all of those things. And then defensively, the Bengals have had to sacrifice because, they signed the extension for Burrow. They're trying to get the deals done with the receivers, and they're putting that money in. And then remember, the Bengals are not the world's biggest spenders. So they've let some guys go, and it's mostly their young guys on defense. As a result, this is a really old defense. They've started to collect some old parts there. So I was looking at it. What is it? I think Trey Hendrickson is 29. Mike Hilton is 30. I think Sam Hubbard is 29, 30. BJ Hill, 29. I mean, there are key parts of that defense all over the place that are 29, 30 years old. And they're good players, but they're on the south sides of their career. I mean, they're heading in the wrong direction at this point. And they still had good performance, although we don't really know what kind of an offense that the Patriots have. My guess is that it's going to be pretty average to below average this year. So that performance probably isn't going to look great. But this is a matchup that, for the first time in a few years, it should be favoring the Chiefs on both sides of the ball.
I'm looking forward to that myself. And when I take a step back, it also feels like the Bengals offense has to be a little bit more one-dimensional. The loss of Joe Mixon, I feel like that's a bigger deal than they want to make it out to be in Cincinnati, certainly around the league. But what does that do for the Chiefs in terms of playing into Steve Spagnuolo's trends and strengths rather than weaknesses if they're not able to run the ball with much alacrity and the Chiefs attack it early? They should be able to get that thwarted.
Yeah, this isn't a Bengals offense, rather, that you have to worry about the multidimensional threat like you did in the past. And that's where the Chiefs, really got spent in the past, was that if they concentrated too much on the run, they concentrated too much on going after Burrow, they concentrated too much in just denying his receivers. None of them worked. Now, I think you can probably, Zach Moss is a good back, but I'm just not sure that there's enough with that offensive line to give him the holes that he needs. So now, are you able to put a little bit more pressure on Burrow? Are you able to lean on your secondary a little bit and just dare the Bengals to beat you on the ground? We'll see what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes decide to come up with. But, I think that there's a reasonable – excuse me, I'm talking about the wrong side of the ball. We'll see what Steve Spagnuolo wants to do on that. But I think there's a reasonable chance that, you can pick your poison better with the Bengals now than you could in the past. And so I think that favors the Chiefs because it's difficult to prepare for all three of those different aspects. And right now the Bengals are one or two dimensional at best, I think, and they might just be one dimensional. And if the Bengals decide that this is the week to try and lean on the ground game to help Burrow out, it could work if the Chiefs choose poorly and decide, hey, they're going to concentrate on taking Burrow out of the game and Zach Moss beats them. But if they're prepared for it and going either way and can make an adjustment, there's not a lot right now that scares you about what you saw in the Bengals in week 1 offensively.
Now, I got to have respect for Jamar Chase. He may not want to say a certain quarterback's name, and I hope that carries through because that's just going to be enjoyable for me. But a 6 for 6 for 60-yard outing, agreed, doesn't scare me that much. Yeshiva's coming on, younger guy, contributing there. If they get Higgins back, I think that changes some of the geometry, especially for the Chiefs secondary. But what does Higgins' presence do or not do for you if you are trying to design a game plan?
Yeah, you got to be prepared for both sides of it because, it does feel like that the Bengals, if they don't have T. Higgins, they probably do have to rely a little bit more on the ground game. If they do have him back and, we'll see, how much Jamar participates this week. Like you said, obviously he can go out without practicing and give you a decent afternoon. But, if your quarterback can't make the throws that he's made in the past to those guys, then that's a challenge because there's been times that Burrow's just been able to rely on going to those guys and just letting them make plays. If he can't shove the ball 20 or 30 yards downfield accurately with some oomph, it takes the threat of those guys away a lot more. They're going to have to go to probably a shorter passing game, getting rid of the ball quickly. And those guys can do that, but it just limits your big play ability, especially if you are playing close, playing tight, and you're tackling effectively, just making sure that those guys don't break out big yak plays. But that hasn't really been the problem that the Chiefs have had. The Chiefs have usually it's been a bit of a problem with the Bengals of downfield throws. And I'm just not sure that even if the Bengals have Higgins back this week, that part of the game is there for them right now. So we'll see how Burrow looks this week. Maybe he's going to come out and be a lot more comfortable. Maybe he was just getting some of the rust knocked off. I mean, we know with the shorter preseason now that a lot of offenses around the league look terrible. The Chiefs and Ravens didn't look terrible, but a lot of other teams did. So maybe they'll look different this week. But the Bengals have something to prove for sure. And the Chiefs just have to be ready for, I think, different game plans regardless.
I would agree. And they have to be able to roll with the punches and deal with what pops up on them. What are the X factors? Who's going to be it? One of them's name is Jaden Hicks is in my book. We'll see what Matt thinks on the backside of this. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors, because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. Folks, make sure that you like and sub and hit the bell here on YouTube. Join us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you get free audio, you can get us 5 days a week. Plus, our locos know that, and they also get in there every single day and get on our text line at 816-350-787-81. And then they go check out Matt. And Matt's over at ChiefsDigest.com and at Chiefs Digest here on YouTube, where you can get him all the time as well. Matt, I want to come back to what could hit us out of the blue. One thing that perplexed me last week was the lack of any vision of Jaden Hicks on the field. Do we get a remedy to that this week?
I'm really interested. I mean, that's gonna keep me in Steve Spagnuolo's press conference on Thursday, because gotta ask what happened to Jaden Hicks. I mean, we had been pretty convinced from Spags and everybody else on this Chiefs defense that Jaden Hicks was ready to play a role in this team. And there were so many places that you could really imagine him being a factor, especially against the Ravens. Didn't play a defensive snap. So I'm at a loss. I mean, I haven't heard from anybody yet exactly explain why Hicks didn't play. What the plan is for him going forward. Obviously played a bunch on special teams, and we all knew he was going to be a special teams factor this year. But the fact that he didn't play a snap on defense is really curious to me, although the Chiefs did protect their rookies for the most part, except unless your name was Kingsley or Xavier. Chiefs kind of protected you in week one if you were a rookie. I mean, they did it with Jared Wiley, they did it with Hicks as well. Maybe that was just a little bit of the game plan, was making sure that, that they didn't throw those rookies out there in a tough situation, in a tough environment, and ask too much of them too early. But Hicks seems like he's ready for it. So I'll be interested. And it could be very well, just game plan specific. They felt like that, that when they went three safeties, that a big part of it was going to be Chamari Connor. So maybe there are going to be situations, maybe this is one of those weeks, that they feel like, hey, maybe Hicks is a better fit. We'll see, but I'm just as eager as you are to see Hicks out on this defense, because I think he can be an X factor for this team.
I think so as well. And the other one that really stands out to me that they need to actually accomplish, there's a lot of pressure created last week. Wasn't a whole lot of finishing going on. So how they stepped that up, George Karlaftis, 6 pressures, Chris Jones, 6 pressures. Leo Chanel obviously played maybe his best game as a pro yet. Hopefully he gets a little bit more pass rushes. I do believe they're going to be in more passing situations. Who do you see that really can come through and up the level of the finishing percentage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one for sure is that it's just going to have to come from the edges. You know that Chris Jones is going to get his production. And, that's the scary thing. We know, Ryan, is that, pressures historically don't have a great correlation of who's turning into sacks. I mean, the Chiefs have been a good example of this. I think it was back in 2021. They had one of the highest, pressure rates in the league and didn't get any sacks. The following 2 years, I don't remember that. I don't think the pressure rate might have been even as high as it was in 2021, yet they were number 2 in the league in sacks. Sometimes getting sacks I think there's a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of timing. There's a little bit of an opponent. Great example is the Ravens. I mean, Chiefs had a ton of pressures, but it's hard to finish on Lamar Jackson because you finish on him and he's gone. He's not where he used to be. With Burrow, I mean, if they get the kind of pressures that they did last week, they should get some sacks against Burrow. But to me, the pressure is on Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. That's where it's got to come from because, like I said, Chris Jones is going to get his, but they need those edges to step up. And that's where I thought they were kind of sloppy last week. I think it's less of a danger against Burrow, although we know that he has scrambled and beaten the Chiefs before. He's not going to run with the frequency of Lamar Jackson, but Burrow is another one. You can't get sloppy in your lanes. You can't get sloppy on the edges. You've got to maintain and make sure that he stays in that pocket. And if you do that and contain him, then you can get some sacks, but you can't get you can't lose track of your assignments. You can't get away from where you are. I mean, there's only one guy that's allowed to do that, and that's Chris Jones. He can freelance as much as he wants to, but you can't let Chris Jones effectively freelance if other guys decide to do it too. I mean, that's kind of the price that you pay playing for the Chiefs up on the front four, is that you can let Chris freelance. You can't. You got to do your job.
Everybody just be Simon sound, please.
Simon sound. That's all you're looking for. All you're looking for.
Matt, how do you see this game coming down?
Yeah, I mean, as we've been talking about it, I fail to find the area where the Bengals are the superior team. I mean, the only other X factor I think that the Bengals have is Lou Anarumo. I mean, he's defensively has always come up with some good plans for the Chiefs. He's done a good job against Mahomes, makes good adjustments. We know he's the king of simulated pressures. He does a really good job in that respect, and I think he's going to have to with this team. The question is, and my guy Nick Jacobs made this point on our discussion the other day, is how effective are the simulated pressures if you can't get genuine pressure on the quarterback? So I think with the age and the issues, I mean, there's guys you have to contain. I mean, Trey Hendrickson is Trey Hendrickson. If you can hold him in place, then it makes it a whole lot easier. But I think that the age of this Bengals defense, I think, is going to catch up with them. And I think this is the year. I don't think that they look quite as tough. So if you can contain that, if you can protect Mahomes, you can run the football a little bit, I just don't see where the Bengals are superior in any of the phases of this game. So I'm going with the Chiefs comfortably, 27-13.
I love it. We'd like to know what you guys think. Leave your predictions in the comments down below, or go over to Chiefs Digest, his YouTube channel. Leave your thoughts over there on something, because you need the feedback. It's always good to have the discussion, because who knows? It could be even uglier than that. Matt, thanks for your insight and giving us your crystal ball as well.
Absolutely, Ryan. Take care, my friend.
Everyone, you guys have a great day. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell here. Get on Spotify and the podcast platforms, and check out Matt at ChiefsDigest.com. We will be back with you tomorrow as we get ready for the Bengals with the guys who know them best here on the Locked On Podcast Network. See you then.